All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Garrett Mehrguth. I am your host today of the SaaS Marketing Makeover, and I am very excited to be joined by David Thompson. David is the ex-CMO of every SaaS company out there. No, he's ex-CMO, WebEx, Domo, Freshworks, and super happy to have him here. David.
Hey, great to be here, Garrett.
Yeah, man. No, I'm pumped. So, yeah, no, we're going to have a great time. Now, for everybody tuning in, what we're going to do today is we're going to, in 30 minutes, get a random SaaS company. It is truly random. Like, I don't know who it's going to be. David doesn't know who it's going to be. Every guest kind of pokes at it a little bit. We never tell them. So we're just going to be completely raw, authentic, and we're going to look at it for the first time with you. And my favorite part of this is you're going to not only get to see what we would do, but how people like David's brains work in real time. And that to me is the coolest little thing that you don't get from any other type of content, is how does someone's brain work who's been there and done it in real time. So with that being said, Ryan, can you pull up the wheel so we see who we're looking at today? All right. Keep trucking. I have no idea who that is. Talkdesk, yeah. SciSense, yeah, cool. Let's see who it is. Talkdesk. All right. Have you heard of Talkdesk before, David?
Yeah. I actually think they were a competitor of Freshworks.
Oh, hell yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Although, memories dim fast.
Oh, no, I love it. All right, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to look at Talkdesk. Now, what I like to do to start this research is, before I base my own opinions, I like to see what the market's saying. So, and I want to get your take on this. One of my favorite things to do, though, is go to the 3-star reviews. They got 55 of them. That's interesting, Gita. All right, so let's take a look at their 3-star reviews. Good user experience, but needs improvement. The reporting is very difficult to manage. We're able to change our IVR on the fly, include self-service options. Okay. Talkdesk is an enterprise cloud contact center, empowering companies to make customer experience a true competitive advantage. Sounds like a little bit of a competitor, right, for you guys?
Yeah.
Cool.
To Freshworks, Freshdesk.
Yep. Cool. And then you got, I like that you can decide to answer the call. I dislike how the transfer feature works. Reconsider if you want smooth transferring capabilities. Okay. Good for simple use. Good to know. Okay.
Seems to be heavy on the telephony.
Yeah, no, 100%. Exactly. Very phone focused, right? Our office is using Zoom. Zoom proved to be more useful in terms of allowing others to hop on the call easily. Okay. Good if all you need is a phone line to your computer.
Wait, their competitor was Zoom? I didn't know.
It looks like. So let's go have some fun now. Okay, we got a little idea of what people are saying. Now, based on our kind of conversation, David, before we got started, you talked to me a little bit about how you want to know how a brand makes you feel, and why, essentially, if you could use anyone in the space, why do you have to use them if you're the right person? Is that a fair way of looking at it, or what would you say? We want this moment.
Is the targeting good? Is the messaging clear? And is the image and the promise compelling? Is what I would really focus on.
And so immediately, right? What is that? How do you think they're doing on that?
Well, so I'm already kind of just off put by build resilient cloud contact centers. Who the hell ever goes and types into Google build resilient cloud contact center? I don't do that. Now, I mean, I give them credit. I give them partial credit for being clear.
Yeah.
And I ding them for being totally boring.
There's
resilient cloud, build resilient cloud contact centers.
Yeah.
I'm already asleep. Okay.
Now, they go to Gartner. I saw you've had a lot of great experience with Gartner. I mean, our SaaS clients do very well with Gartner, so it's cool to see this here. I think
fine. Gartner's a good, trust builder and validator. But go back to the top for a second, Garrett.
Yeah.
So again, I'm okay, why do I care? And how are you different? Because there's a million contact centers out there, and CX, and everyone is talking about experience, and everyone's talking about digital transformation. And so to me, the challenge is how do you surface a message that is what you do, and more importantly, why I should care, right?
No.
And
Yep.
what is the hook? Oh God, no God. Okay, now you've really lost me, right?
Well, no, it's right. So unfortunately, only
Wait,
because
that's their product page.
the primary. Yep, this is the primary product page. Contact
Okay,
center.
a product page designed by the CTO.
Oh, you're a savage, but it's so true. Look, I have to tell these people eventually, David. I have to put a little bit of spin on it, but no, I couldn't agree more in the sense that perception is reality is a big thing I say and believe in when it comes to marketing, right? And there's this moment of perception, and I think there's this misconception sometimes of how people in the enterprise space and SaaS believe their products are bought. In other words, the CTO wants another CTO to feel good about it instead of making sure that the person who's using it can be a champion. Does that make sense? Like there's a lot of decision maker digital sales instead of champion digital sales. And the champion digital sales is what's winning, right? The self onboarding is what's winning. The product centric growth is what's winning. And this seems to be feature based marketing, which frankly has been dead for a while, but hasn't died to them.
Totally. And by the way, what's under when you click on Get Started? What do you get?
Oh, you're getting into the depth stuff. I love it, David. Let's go. So,
well, no, like the call to like, what's the call? Which of these features are? Oh, okay. So here's what you just said. Which of these features is most important to you? In other words, I'm trying to qualify you as a sales lead right now, as opposed to actually engaging with you.
Yeah, there's this thing that I like to call psychological friction. And the concept for me is how much can I decrease that with my offer and my value proposition so I get someone to take a step right off the edge, right? Where they're going to say, yes, I'm interested. So let's see at least what this looks like for a second, right? So let's assume, which is interesting, right? Because I was on this product page. So with just the minimalist of technology and personalization, right? At this moment, based on this URL slug, they could have put me immediately in their customer engagement funnel, correct? Right? So now,
it's just lead qualification going on here. This is no value to the customer whatsoever. And can I also point out that I think when you clicked on customer engagement, wait, I don't know where you clicked, and then it said download brochure. Oh my God. Okay, is that what resilience involves? Is downloading a brochure?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened there. I think I went back to the homepage just to see how I got here. So what I'm interested in, what you're saying is like, so we're in customer engagement, right?
Yeah.
And so we go, when I see this, usually what I see is that this company is run by their product managers, and they have 6 different product managers that all want to make sure that they get leads accredited to themselves.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
You're navigating their org chart right now.
Yeah, well, because I get to work with all these companies and I see what happens, right? Like the EMEA team, the APAC team, this product center, that product center, and then we're all fighting over credit, right? Because that affects our OKRs, our comps, and we forget about this little person called the customer, right? And so we go to customer engagement. We're now saying that we're an enterprise company, right? It's a hot lead, right? We got our CX product. We got all these agents. There's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would just make a fundamental observation here, Garrett, is you sucked me into your lead generation funnel without giving me any reason to give you any of this stuff, right? Like I've come to the homepage. I'm not sure why resilient is important, because it makes it sound like every other help desk out there is somehow flaky and buggy, and so you need something resilient. And I can't imagine that there's that many people who believe most contact centers are not resilient.
Yeah.
Right. And so they've got a fundamental problem in messaging and a fundamental problem in positioning why anyone should care about their particular solution. Right. And the get started thing is just a classic enterprise sales funnel, as opposed to, hey, like, give me another view on your product or your customers that might be interesting to me and insightful.
100%. Like, bro, what about this, right? I know it's just a high level, right? But it's the same idea, right? Your new contact center will save you 20% in SaaS fees while making every one of your reps smile. Something like this. Give me something where I know what your value prop is and who you sell to. It's just not.
Well, it's not right here. You're selling on price, right? You're selling on price.
And now let's talk about price. What's your take on price in the SaaS world, in the sense that I can't see it so far? What's your take on that? Especially with these brands like Talkdesk that are based on the logos, based on the Gartner, based on what they're doing. They're going after a large seat organization. Do they need basically nah? What's your take for these mid market, these trying to play enterprise? Do the pricing or no?
Sorry, you broke up there a little bit, Garrett. I had a hard time getting that.
No, I'll try it again. So for a company like Talkdesk, who I wouldn't say is just automatically like solidified as the enterprise leader, let's see. Oh, they're up there. Okay, so they're up there, right? They're within contacts with other players. Do they need to show pricing? Is not showing pricing hurting them big picture in this consumer environment? Like, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, in general, that's like marketing circa 25 years ago, right? Not having price transparency is like almost an automatic red flag for most buyers at this point. And especially in SaaS, because SaaS is, supposed to be modeled more on consumer marketing than it is on, Oracle and Siebel marketing. And so if you're requiring me to go through a sales funnel in order to get there, I'm kind of suspicious, quite honestly.
No, and I think, what's the harm? Because if you're doing the land and expand model, right, it's going to be based on seats to a certain extent, correct? So what's the harm in showing average seat price, even if it's not specific? And maybe they don't want to, and they do, look, well, once you have over 500 seats, we give you different discounts, and we don't want to give it all away, right? And this just shows, like, to me, you now have a product-led organization and a sales-led organization where marketing is like this. You know what I'm saying, right? Where the AEs are running the ship, and they want to be able to do custom quotes on everything, and so they don't want to be priced like stuck in a corner. Maybe I'm missing something, but that's what this leads to.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, again, it's just these guys are in a classic enterprise marketing and sales motion here, and that's an increasingly less viable position to be in the marketplace, for sure.
Well, you come from Domo, you come from WebEx. I wouldn't say those people were initially known, at least from what I've seen on the market, as being super accessible. Like, I've tried to work with Domo before. WebEx.
Well, it's all about the freemium. It's all about the freemium model, right? I mean, we like at WebEx, we essentially gave birth to the modern SaaS industry, even before Salesforce had come to market with the free trial, right? Like, hey, don't believe what we see on our website. Just get in there and start using it. And like that's really set the standard for any kind of the cloud offering at this point. Like, if I can't see it, touch it, and smell it, I really don't want to talk to you.
So the reason I asked that question, right, and I love that perspective, was to say, what do you do then if you're Talkdesk, right? So they tap you on the shoulder and they say, look, we want you to solve this, and the founders watching this right now are like, we agree, David. What's that first step when we're talking like this? Ironically, they're talking about CX transformation, right? But they themselves need some digital transformation. So if you were to show up and be that guy, what's the first thing you need to do from an internal standpoint? Forget tactics. Like, how about just reality of making the tactics like foundationally possible, right? So if they're trying to go through digital transformation, what's the first thing you got to do if you show up?
Well, I mean, you have to do what's realistic from a product point of view. And,
Okay.
and you know, I'll be perfectly honest. I know very little about Talkdesk, but I have this feeling like it's maybe been around for a while, or their technology might not be like the most current generation of technology. I don't know. I mean, I assume that's why they're kind of stuck in this enterprise mode. But be that as it may, what yeah. So the 10 odd years, okay. So 10 odd years in, you'd think that they'd be able to have a free trial, or at least a walkthrough tour of the product on the website. And if you can't actually incorporate the product into the website as you would expect a modern SaaS offering to be able to do, then give me like a quick walkthrough. Give me a quick video. Give me a quick sense of how this thing actually feels to use. And then I'll be a lot more comfortable diving in more deeply.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more, right? Like when we're talking with literally every one of our enterprise players right now who are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not wanting to spend, or it's currently in the millions a month, every one of them, right? Every one of these directors we're getting to work with, every one of these leaders, universally is trying to decrease friction between the moment of value of their product and their website, right? Like, how can I get a consumer from identifying, becoming aware, landing on my website to a moment of value, the magic moment my product creates? How quickly can I make that happen? How frictionless can that be? That's pretty much universal, right? Across, we have about 60 SaaS accounts, all at least mid-market. That's what they're trying to do.
And the thing is, so to your point about product people running the asylum, it is, a lot of times product people are overly protective, or maybe even paranoid about putting their stuff out on the web, like, oh, we're giving away too much value, or our competitors are going to find out what our secret sauce is. And you know what? Like, screw that. Who cares? Right? Like, if it doesn't matter if your competitors figure it out, because if you're not far enough along in terms of differentiating yourself, they're going to beat you anyway, right?
100%. I mean, you've worked on this, and I'm looking at Freshworks right now. Like, you couldn't have more products, right? Like, you were in that environment, right, where you had them all. How did you solve that, right? Where it wasn't each product marketing manager thought they were God and they owned, like, I mean, I see it all the time, right? Where they all have their own websites or their subdomains, or they're all different branded. There's not one consistent menu. So how do you herd cats? Sorry, product marketing people, but like, how do you organize them in a way that it's a consistent message that's about customers, not about Talkdesk? Like, how did you tackle that?
So we went through a whole brand exercise at Freshworks, where we wanted to come up with the core concept that defines us as a platform, and that was creating customers for life. We wanted our customers to be with us for life, and we wanted to create software that would allow them to acquire and keep customers for life. That was kind of the core brand promise that we came up with. And what we did is we made that apply to all of the products, whether it was the support desk product, the internal IT product, the CRM product, the chat product. Everything was about that long-term customer relationship and buy-in and loyalty, and that was really different than like a Salesforce or a Zendesk that tended to be much more focused on customer acquisition, for example, in the case of Salesforce. And so we had a very different perspective. And we tied that together in all of the products so that the products could better cross-sell each other.
I know, I love that. Now, one of the things I find interesting, though, that we talked about earlier, right? We said this get started button where you make all this friction and stuff, so I put you down the right experience. How did you tackle that at Freshworks from like a homepage universal menu standpoint, so that you could put people, right? Because what they're afraid of, right, in their defense is, well, I don't want someone who wants workforce engagement to get a customer engagement demo, or I don't want someone who wants AI to get an analytics demo. So how do we do that at scale in your mind for everyone watching without creating useless friction?
Well, gosh, I just wouldn't overthink that, right? I mean, like the point is that if you're going to buy a support desk for your customers, at some point you're going to need a support desk for your employees too, or you're going to need a CRM system, and so if you start navigating through our website and learning about all of our products where you might just that day be interested in one, that's fine, because guess what? I'm setting you up for a cross-sell later, right? Yeah. And if I have a rich brand, in the case of Freshworks, I just need enough of a strand to keep it all together, right? So it doesn't seem like a bunch of siloed offerings. And that was definitely a challenge that we had at Freshworks, and it's something that is an ongoing exercise in unifying the brand, and even moving the naming structure into a more unified approach, which started this year with the Freshworks. Instead of something being Fresh Desk and Fresh Service and Fresh Chat, we needed to work Freshworks in there. So the latest product bundle is Freshworks CRM, and eventually all the products will adhere to that, because we actually had customers sometimes get confused and say, "Hey, is Fresh Service competing with Fresh Desk?" And like, no, we're the same company.
You're like, wait. First off, who's your account executive? No. One of the things I find interesting always, and I love your take on content here, is when we talk about ourselves, right? Like, what's your take though when you've got a blog, a demo center, customer reveals, benchmark tool, buyer's kit, all this different content, which I'm sure is great. Like, I don't want to devalue it. How do I organize it though in a way where the value is self-evident, or I get people to the right place? Like, how do you take this massive amounts of content and make it accomplish what it was initially designed to do?
Yeah, well, so I think it's I think the way to conceptualize that is you got to do your best in terms of site structure and site organization, to think of it entirely from the buyer's point of view. So, everyone talks about customer journeys. That's the wrong way to think about it, because that's a sales-oriented way of thinking about it, which is like this get started button is just a disaster of sales-oriented thinking. But if I'm in the market for a contact center, right? Yep. What is the process that I'm going through of evaluating what all my options are, right? And so everything has to be structured toward that journey, and ideally getting the right piece of content in front of the buyer at the right time. And you may have someone who's not even in the market today, but maybe in the market in a year, and you're going to want to feed them a different piece of content than the person who's actually just done a Google search on Zendesk competitors, right? Yeah. Because they're in the market to evaluate what's the competition for Zendesk, and so I think that's just the framework that you want to bring, and so the structure on your website is attuned to that buyer's journey, but even more importantly, perhaps, is once you've got them as a lead, that your nurture programs also adhere to that framework.
I love that. So I like to get practical, David. So I love what you said, and my brain went going. So check this out. What if we did the same environment of the menu, but we started to create labels so our customers could self-identify? So we took the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we organized it based on our customer. In other words, almost everything we're talking about Talkdesk today is saying, hey, Talkdesk, it's not about you, right? Like, that's essentially what you and I are saying. It's about your customer. So what if we moved this and created a category that said exploring right above webinars? It said, purchasing, or it said current customer. And then we organized our resources based on where they're at. And then that would allow me to be like, yeah, I am exploring. What should I be aware of, right? Or, yeah, I'm looking to buy. What are people saying about you, right? And I don't know, that's just one way of taking a lot of different content across a lot of different product lines across a lot of different regions and allowing people to self-identify. But
yeah. No, I think I agree totally.
And it sounds like, my favorite thing in content today is when you have the data, right? So it sounds like to me, they have this like benchmark tool to see how you stack up, right? Like, how am I?
That's cool. Now, where is that on the site?
Oh, you want to find it? Check it out. You're going to have to go to resources and a benchmark tool. Now, I think this thing's bitching.
Put it on the homepage.
Well, yeah, and then show the average data, right? Like, what happens to the average customer when they transition to Talkdesk? What happens, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What happens to abandonment rate? What happens to? And then we start to make our content about this. So we talk about benchmarks on the industry. So what's the benchmark in IT? What's the benchmark in regions? What's the benchmark in countries, right? Industries. And then start putting out the data that no one else can do, right? If you can create content that no one else can create because you have data that no one else has.
Yeah, and Garrett, what's really good about this is it's very interactive, and it's a win-win. And in fact, can you scroll up a second? So see how you stack up. So what's the promise here? See where you stand against your peers. That's awesome. Compare key metrics to recognize market trends, fix pitfalls, and uncover opportunities to improve customer experience. So this is really cool. And what's good about it is it's a win-win because it's a win for the buyer who may be very well interested in these types of KPI comparisons. But it's also a win as a lead because, guess what? Now the salespeople know what the guy's interested in. Right?
David, I think the funny part is, and I can see this in my mind, and I hope I'm wrong, but this is like what my assumption is. I've got a risk-averse CMO who's been burned in the past, and she's in charge of the homepage. I have product marketing managers that have to own their stuff and are blasted on quarterly KPIs if they don't hit, and they're using only first touch attribution, hence why they're having to have people self-identify. And then I've got this creative young person who's like working with developers to come up with awesome stuff, but they have no say in the organization, so they're just like
it's in the basement. Yeah. No, that's good. I think you have a good chance of being right about that.
So you're an ex-CMO, right? You've been the CMO at a lot of different places. I get a lot of people on your tactical. Let's just get like org chart for a second. How do you get this person's thinking, which to me is exponentially better than anything I've seen from their marketing? How do we get them to have a bigger influence, right? Because this same person is going to be the same person that's going to want to do trials and start for free now and like get people into the product. How do we elevate people like this when they're not the product owner or they're not the CMO? Like, how do we give them a bigger voice as marketers?
You have to create a collaborative, creative process within marketing, but even more importantly, between marketing and sales and between marketing and executive management, where everyone has a voice, and you start with the philosophy that a good idea can come from anyone and anywhere, right? So if you fundamentally believe that there's no monopoly in marketing on good ideas, guess what? You're going to surface a lot more good ideas, from the lowest levels of marketing or from a customer, from a salesperson, you name it. Like we ran this guerrilla marketing campaign at Freshworks against Salesforce, and we had a brand workshop for this campaign, and we brought in some of our customers, and we brought in some Salesforce customers, and one of the Salesforce customers said, like, I would never recommend Salesforce to one of my friends because it's too complicated, frustrating and expensive. And that line turned into Salesforce. Complicated, frustrating, and expensive. Who says you can't have all three?
That's savage, by the way. So we're talking about big ideas, right? How did you get that internally as CMO? Because if a count person who you or gut when you say that there's the private scare, how to get Salesforce that campaign live? Because I think the same way you got that live and approved by management is the same way Talkdesk gets pricing on their website. Like, I don't think it's any less difficult for Talkdesk to get pricing than for you to get a blimp. So how did you get a blimp? Like, what was that process like?
Well, I mean, look, a lot of it just goes to the heart and culture of the company, right? I mean, Freshworks has a big appetite for thinking big and acting bold, and making a mark on the map in the quickest possible way. And so guerrilla marketing, at Dreamforce was a great way for us to, get instant name recognition among a highly qualified audience. But everyone has their own style and approach, right?
Yep.
And you just have to work within the parameters of each company's culture. But don't be afraid. If you're a marketer and you're afraid to push those boundaries, then you're probably not going to rise above the noise in the market, right? You got to push push beyond.
No, I love that. So let's wrap up. Now, we got to give Talkdesk some credit. They have a great product that appears, and they're doing really well. I think they just need to be a little bit more bold in the sense that it's very timid. Like, if you the shit, say it. You know what I mean? Like, if you the leader, start acting like it instead of saying build resilient cloud. Like, they need some swagger, right? So let's say,
especially if you're gonna plant your flag on the moon of customer experience transformation, you better have a transformed customer experience on your own website.
Yep, 100%. So you show up. You're the CMO. You got 3 things to do based on this conversation. What are those 3 things weighted by importance? So 1, 2, and 3. What would you do?
Well, again, I always start with why should I care? What's different? What's better? And what's compelling about Talkdesk? And make sure that is front and center, and then validate that. And engage me, right? So that content, that KPI content that you were talking about, if their value proposition really is about, measurable KPI improvement versus your customers' competitors, then engage me on that, and all of this, right? Prove to me that with your solution, and convince me that I've got a shot at achieving some of these competitive improvements with this solution. And if that's what you mean by resilient, then just change the word resilient to something else.
Yep. I love it. I love it. I love it. So in closing, I'm going to wrap us up, and I'm going to just say a couple things. If I was CMO and I'm looking at it, number 1, I'm going to try to decrease the friction to get into my product. I got to figure out with my engineering team, even if it's just a different instance or how, I need someone to be able to experience what it's like, even if it's not their own data maybe yet, or they just got to be able to click around and feel it. Number 1. Number 2, pricing. How much does this darn thing cost? I want to know. And number 3, like you said, we just need to bring people. We have to have something why do you choose Talkdesk? And I think the thing that they have to be okay with, David, if we're being honest, is they got to be okay with some people not being their customer. Yeah. It should be so clear that the wrong people are like, here. And the right people are like, yes, finally, the perfect solution does exist. So, no, I love it.
And can you communicate to a 9-year-old who's sneaking up on me here in the background?
I love it. Well, thank you so much, David, for being a part of this. Young man, future CMO we have on our show today, which is cool. So thanks for being here. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, David, what's the best?
David R. Thompson on Twitter.
Okay.
My mom likes money.
Yeah, there we go. And he's not cheap. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here today, David. And that's the SaaS Marketing Makeover, everybody.
You got it. Take care, Garrett. Bye. Oh, because you're so funny.